Well, dormant over the last 3 days, Gulfstream Park roaring back in the mix on this Thursday, May the 14th, 2020. One of our favorite vistas, the view from our rooftop camera here, gazing out on a fast and firm but overcast and very comfortable Thursday afternoon, kicking off a new 4-day week as this 2020 spring meet rolls ahead. We move from outside to our inside studios. Jason Blewett upstairs, Acacia Courtney downstairs in our paddock set studios. And how are you doing, Acacia? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, Jason, and we have a lot going on. I liked your little open as we are roaring into the week. We have the Roar Stakes coming up on Saturday. We have stakes action tomorrow as well. Got Stormy making her return on Saturday as well. So just a lot going on over the next couple of days here at Gulfstream that we're looking forward to. And more than anything, just happy to be back in action racing, and we see that a lot throughout the country this week as well.
It does seem as the month of May continues to go on day by day, week by week. Other tracks are coming back online, and certainly happy to see our sister tracks, our pair, if you will, in Northern and Southern California, both coming back over the next 24 hours, give or take. Of immediate concern on this Thursday afternoon will be Golden Gate Fields returning from their layoff, and they've got a 9-race program that begins at 3:45 Eastern, and a lot of money will be in that mandatory Golden Pick 6 pool.
They have a carryover in that Pick 6 pool from the last time that they raced, and so estimated to be about $2 million. So mandatory payout, head on over there, take a look at their card. Certainly excited to get a chance to support California racing once again, and then Santa Anita back in action tomorrow as well. So looking forward again to seeing Northern and Southern California back racing, and should be definitely a great week if you're a racing fan.
That normalcy of just having other tracks running and our friends and family, if you will. We all love the game, and these thoroughbreds that give us everything. Absolutely pumped as you are with California back online. And let's try to get the dough this afternoon as we have $400,000, the jackpot guarantee in the Rainbow Six on a very good card. I'll tell you, Acacia, that is very much in my mind anchored around that 9th race, that featured 9th race, where you have some graded stakes caliber horses like Bronx Beauty and Pacific Gal against a couple of really sharp horses in Day by Day and Violent Times.
Yeah, really looking forward to that race for sure. And the 6th race as well, which kicks off the Pick 5. That's a nice maiden special weight for the fillies a little bit later as well. I think those two are the highlights, but primarily, as you said, race number 9 this afternoon. We've got some tough mares in there.
We definitely do. You do have some numbers to start the card, and again, with that Mercury hovering right around a high of about 79, it is a very comfortable, maybe unseasonably cooler afternoon for this time of the year in this part of the country. You'll try to heat things up, though, in this early Pick 5. And how are you approaching this race? El Scorcho, is he your top pick to start things out?
He's not. He makes, she makes a lot of sense on the big drop in class in here, but I didn't use her in the first leg of the Pick 5, though. She's 8-5. I preferred a couple of others. I thought Matcha had license to improve, and Josefa, just kind of more reasonable drops in my mind. And then I wanted to go 4 deep in the 2-year-old race today. We've got some interesting stallions represented by their first starters in M. Shawish and Firing Line, and then Vancouver, who is pretty sensational and precocious for Gay Waterhouse in Australia, has his first U.S. starter as well. So looking forward to seeing those new stallions represented in the 2nd. I do think I've got the logical favorites perhaps in race 3. And then I think the 4th race is a little bit tricky as well, that maiden 16. It's just going to be, I think, who shows up. And then I've got Dizzy Gillespie and Stonehands and a pretty tough cash out that also kicks off our Rainbow Six. And those very, I would say, battle-hardened tough horses we're fans of.
Oh, they are old pros through and through in that race. And another matchup and showdown and rematch as it was and were with Dizzy Gillespie Gillespie and Charlie the Greek. We'll talk more about their rivalry, and they've had some good battles over the last couple of years in this part of the country. But it all begins just 4 turf races today on a fast and firm cloudy Thursday here at GP, and that opening turf race is a 3-and-up filly mare 12-5 to 10-5 claimer. I get what you're thinking, using match of the 4 and the 7 Josefa for Antonio Sano, but I ultimately felt as though the drop here would be enough to get the 6 El Scorcho home. Although she's only run twice, for me this is like a now or never race. She will never, I don't think, find a field down here as modest looking as this one is as she goes for the 12-5.
She does pick up Luis Saez today too, and clearly she's had some question marks along the way. She just didn't really run a step in her debut for special weight in December. We didn't see her again until April. They tried blinkers, and she still wasn't great getting out of the gate. So that was one thing that I had some concern with as well, is that she just hasn't been able to show any speed as of yet. Maybe just with such a significant drop, a strong rider on her back, we're going to get her a chance to see her involved a little bit more. But I did feel like Matcha, blinkers come off, again, just kind of a reasonable drop in class as well, can be forwardly placed, and that's why I preferred her. Same thing with Josefa, who I do think comes out of some really good races for sure.
She does, and she is back not only with that key drop and a needed realistic drop in for the 12-5. She picks up, much like the rider change on my filly, El Scorcho. You've got Miguel riding for Antonio Sano. She makes a lot of sense, and I think, for me anyway, the main danger to the favorite. Let's move on to the second. Clearly, we have some guesswork ahead of us, Acacia, as we bring on a cast of 7 in this 2-year-old filly made in special weight. And again, with all 7 horses, they are first-time starters. And kind of a neat little sidebar to this race, the presence of those first crop stallions you had talked about, and looking at that 4-horse spread in your early pick 5.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's fun kind of being able to look back and see their accomplishments on the racetrack. Obviously, M. Shawishu did very well here at Gulfstream Park, being a Grade 1 winner on both turf and dirt. You and I were chatting earlier about Vancouver, who he's actually had already a few 2-year-old runners in Australia. Obviously, the breeding kind of schedule in that part of the world is a bit different. So he's actually had already some graded stakes, group stakes placed already, horses in Australia. He was a really good precocious horse who won the Golden Slipper for Gay Waterhouse. We'll see how he does as a stallion, but it is kind of fun getting a chance to see his first 2-year-old in the United States.
Who's one of 2 in the race for owner-breeder Stonehenge Farm. They have your top selection, the Vancouver filly, the 6 Rock with Robin, who does lure Luis Saez, and then we have Michael Yates sending out Go Jojo Go, who's been based here at Gulfstream Park. Here's the breeze with this filly by Kozan. This is 2 workouts ago. Actually, this would have been either Derby weekend or Kentucky Derby week on May 2nd, as we check out this filly breezing on the inside of her stablemate and workmate in the Ice Beast. This move looked okay to me, and my question to you, Acacia, is there a 2-year-old trainer, maybe a barn, that's as hot here in Florida like Mike Yates is? I mean, he's in fuego right now.
He's done really, really well, certainly. And I think, yes, with 2-year-olds, and we've seen that primarily, and we've also seen him maybe be a little bit more patient. We've seen his 2-year-olds come back already in their second start and be really sharp, too, just improving with experience, too. Just everything the barn seems to be sending out lately does look to be well meant. So I think that filly looks interesting. We know how well Kozan did last year, and having precocious runners, too. And day out of the office, I think this one, I mean, you look just at Tim Ham's 2-year-old stats, hard to overlook that.
Absolutely. And when you're looking at proven or at least high-level sexy designer pedigrees, you may need look no further in a race like this than with an Into Mischief Indian Charlie filly. And, you know, me at times, I can be a little highfalutin, a little bit of a pedigree snob, and the Into Mischief Indian Charlie won me over with Day Out of the Office. Obviously, a hunch play for many, given the times we are currently living in. We'll see what happens, who gets bet in that second race. Back to the turf we go for the third, bringing on a cast of 3-year-old, $25,000 to $20,000 claiming horses, and at least top billing going into me, Acacia, is that rematch, mainly concerning, and most importantly concerning, the 10 Bahamian Prince, who's going to be heavy favorite here as he knocks heads against the 8 Dio Forte. I thought both those horses were very logical, and clearly I would give, at least for me anyway, the best form, the overall consistent form in this race, going that specialized 5 furlongs on the turf. I'd give it to the 10 Bahamian Prince.
He really has been, and actually pretty good in that one dirt try, but it does seem to be sprinting on the turf is where he has been best, and his last couple of races have been really solid too. So I have a lot of respect for him. I have been trying to get Flash Bass home since he switched to the turf. I've wanted to see him on the turf the whole time. I like him back sprinting. I didn't love seeing him stretch out in distance, but he ran well going a mile 2 starts back. So I think maybe now with the gelding, blinkers off, we'll see a little bit more of a relaxed type, not going to be a runoff like we saw from him last time out. So I'm hoping all of those things, and not to mention back to sprinting, will kind of be the magic formula.
As he picks up a rod, one of 2 in the race, in fact, trained by Armando de la Cerda, and I was just looking at the jockey standings now that we've got a good 5.5 weeks under our belts here for the spring meet. You've got Louis in first with 43, Tyler second with 34, yet a rod has just stormed like that in a matter of about 2 weeks riding here. He's already got 23 wins.
That's pretty amazing, and it seems like it really has just been a continuation of the championship meet, certainly with this level of a rider colony here for sure, and it's fun to watch. These guys put on a show every day for us.
Yeah, no, that upper echelon and that colony downstairs is a deep one without a doubt. Here's the 4th race. Speaking of the upper echelons of the colony, you've got Miguel Vasquez on the deuce, Amisael pilots the 3, Arad is on the 6, Captain Duke, Edgard rides the 7, Sudden Capture, and then you've got leading rider Luis Saez on our top pick for Dale in for the 16 on the dirt, the number 8 Tiger's Back.
And he'll probably take a lot of money in here, but I just think it's the right spot. I didn't like him at all trying the turf last time, and I think sprinting is what he prefers. So it looks kind of like this is the perfect place for him. And he faced, I mean, Dr. Post 2 starts back. He was running against really tough horses in special weight. So I think the drop to the 16 today is just kind of a needed, logical, kind of the right move for him. And maybe he'll just be happy to be back on the dirt.
A lot of changes one inside of him with the 7 Sudden Capture. And I don't want this stat to be misleading because there's far more going on than just a straight up special weight to maiden claiming drop down with the second time starter. Yet Eddie Plisa has done this consistently and at a high level with horses that probably look the way Sudden Capture, or at least in a similar fashion, appears on paper. One big price debut, didn't do a lot of running, yet these horses are obviously improving second out with the drop. And again, there's more going on than just a special weight to maiden claiming dip, but I found it encouraging looking at that sample, that 20-horse sample. He's won and done this move a couple of times with horses because Sudden Capture hasn't raced in about 8 months, but there's 2 winners in that sample. One came back off a 209-day layoff, and another was off even longer than Sudden Capture at about 325 days. So maybe this horse will come back firing this afternoon.
That's encouraging, and it is fun to see who he faced back in that September debut behind Hate Indian, who did go on, of course, to win the Fountain of Youth on the dirt. But, yeah, there's a lot going on, but you have kind of seen this doesn't feel like an unfamiliar move from Eddie Plisa. The blinkers on, the drop in clash, just kind of a lot of things at once. In fact, without the layoff, almost reminds me of Miles Ahead, who kind of just had everything at once, and it worked. So I certainly wouldn't discredit in a good barn and good connections as well. I am curious what we're going to get from Captain Duke, who, speaking of Mike Yates, this one showed a lot of speed, but wasn't able to sustain it in his debut. Could potentially be a prescient claim, though, for Jorge Delgado.
Oh, I'm thinking that horse is dangerous. In fact, you and I will wrap up the first segment of the show, a cold 8-6 exact as we take a little time out. We'll have more on the Rainbow 6, solid maiden turf, and that excellent Thursday feature coming up after this.
12 as they roll into the backstretch.
In the high 70s, coming to you from Gulfstream Park in one of our favorite views, undoubtedly, as we make a triumphant return to the turf course following what turned out to be a fairly rainy and sloppy Mother's Day back on a Sunday afternoon. But the show goes on. Our spring meet continues. I think this is week 6 already, if you can believe it here. And maybe in some alternate reality, you think it's a little bittersweet. We're certainly very prideful of the fact we've been able to run throughout this entire thing here at Gulfstream Park. But Acacia, you and I downstairs in the office were both saying it's just a little odd because in normal times we'd be gearing up for the second jewel of the Triple Crown.
I'd probably be running on about 3 hours of sleep right now and running around doing everything in preparation for the Preakness. But make sure you check out Preakness at home, and we will have a Preakness at some later date.
We definitely will. We'll see. We already know the Derby obviously confirmed the first Saturday in September. Who knows with the Preakness and/or Belmont Stakes, but fingers crossed we can all get back to normal here, and fingers crossed that I got a good day of handicapping ahead of me, not only today but tomorrow afternoon as we bust out the Friday Hollywood Wildcat Day, if you will, here at GP. It won't be Black-Eyed Susan Day. I am officially renaming it Hollywood Wildcat Day here at Gulfstream.
I like it.
Yep, an 11-race Friday card. Beat the Expert, of course. That's what we're alluding to. And an excellent Friday stake. Very much, I think, taking more or less the spot of where the Black-Eyed Susan would be on Preakness Eve. When you look at that cast, and it's a good one, obviously headed by Tonal Shape.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you would imagine that she, at this point in time, could be a Black-Eyed Susan filly. And I know for Safi, the Kentucky Oaks is still very much on the radar. So here's her another chance for her to prove that she can go that 2-turn distance. And then you've got a couple of wild cards in the undefeated Up in Smoke and Cheermeister, who's switching to the dirt for the first time.
Yeah, she's been so good. I mean, you got to love just her quality, her early speed, and just how tough she's been and resilient. She will put up a fight and then some. Anxious to see what she does tomorrow afternoon. And what are we doing in today's Jackpot Rainbow with the guarantee of $400K?
I've got 4320, the Ron Nicoletti magic number. I'm using the same too with Dizzy Gillespie and Stonehands in the first leg here. I had alluded to that 6th race, maiden special weight, kicks off the late pick 5. I think it's a really quality-filled race for the fillies there. And then the quality continues as well. We've got a nice little field there in the 7th. 8th, I think we could potentially have some prices. And then we have those really nice fillies and mares in that allowance race in the 9th. And I'm using 3 deep in there. I think that's a very classy cast. And then I'm going to wrap things up with a short price Cookie Cove and hopefully a bit of a price in 6-string Kiss.
Oh, nice. All right. So a bit of a price and maybe a little wiggle room for you. But for all intents and purposes, Cookie Cove is going to be I didn't see the morning line. I'd imagine she's pretty short there. Getting a rod, and her turf sprint form has been very solid, all things considered, and way the horse to beat in the Thursday nightcap. Things are maybe a little less cut and dried here in the opening leg of the Rainbow Six here as we turn our attention to a real battle-hardened old pro cast in this $16,000 to $14,000 claimer. And just looking at the amount of bold black type in the company lines of both Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie the Greek, I was thinking like Rocky and Apollo Creed really have nothing on these two horses who have faced each other a number of different times. And I thought it'd be fun to pay homage and a little tribute to both horses who are just as honest as the day is long. We've got to go back a good amount of ways. This is right around Labor Day, last early September in 2019. But I think it's noteworthy, certainly for viewing purposes, because Dizzy Gillespie, who's on the lead right now in those white blinkers, he'll win this race, but this was the last time both he and Charlie ran 1-2. Two old pros looking forward to the rematch this afternoon. Although, Acacia, when you look at this race, do you just have to give Dizzy the edge because of his running style?
Oh, absolutely. And his overall consistency. I think it is clear, too. Even though he can win around 2 turns, he is best getting to go this 1-turn trip over here at Gulfstream. You throw out the claiming crown Iron Horse going that mile in 16th, and his record recently has really been pretty sensational for a horse that's making his 40th start today. Kind of horses that I know are big fans of for sure. He's got speed. And to be honest, I had initially liked Be Gone Daddy, and here on the drop I thought he might be key, but take nothing away from Dizzy Gillespie. I think he's been able to kind of continue on that level, while I do slightly worry if some of Charlie the Greek's best races we've seen already, but he's going out for new connections today, and he's kind of been a timeless horse as well.
He has been ageless and timeless. That's a good way of putting it. And at least he does have that recent victory in late March. And I think in 2020 hindsight, probably a combination of running against a field tougher than this one, the Florida bred optional claimer that he comes out of, won by Cajun Brother, who's been on a good run and is racing here Saturday for Mike Yates. In fact, I think he's 2 for 2 Cajun Brother for Mike Yates.
Yes, he is. And that is a monster field he's facing Saturday.
Oh, yeah, no, that race came up incredibly tough. It is a real, not to digress too much, but that Saturday stake here, or I should say Saturday's card, it's really like a January or February Saturday here in the wintertime, isn't it?
It really is. I'm really looking forward to that one. I mean, mentioned Got Stormy. Mark Casse has Untitled in that race we're talking about. It's just going to be pretty exciting for sure.
Absolutely. So Charlie the Greek coming out of a tough Florida bred optional claimer, and I think at that level, 6 is probably just a little too short for him. I know he won going 2 back at 6.5. I still think he's better beyond 6.5 furlongs, and he'll get the mile today, which shouldn't be an issue. Is Stonehands of the rematching duo, getting away from Charlie and Dizzy for a second? You've got Stonehands, who is trying a one-turn race now, coming out of the Blewett Moretti race. Do you give him a look as maybe the main danger as the other horse?
I think he's might be one that could potentially be overlooked just a little bit in here, but he is taking a pretty good drop in class. He's got some tactical speed, and it's been a long time since he's seen the winner's circle for sure, but he has back class, and he's an interesting one. I think that he getting a chance to just kind of run at perhaps a more logical level, and I know that you love the quality of that race, certainly, and he was flattered with Moretti coming out of there to win, but I thought that was a really tough allowance he ran in last time.
Definitely, and your point well taken with him riding a long winless streak, about 23.5 months between that last W. Let's see how he does for Antonio. We move on to race number 6. We're halfway home on the program, and this is where the card really starts to pick up in intensity, and we don't miss a beat in the opening leg of the late pick 5, in which I am 3 deep, and 3 very different looking horses on paper. Between the 4, So Darn Hot, the pricey Ghost Zapper filly, who is, I'm expecting anyway, for her to move up, not only second out, but maybe even liking the turf more than she did the dirt. I used the half. There's one half of the Todd Pletcher American Pharaoh filly duo, if you will. I mean, Todd's got 2 AP, daughters of AP in the mix here. I took the 11 Thankful, thinking she'd be the shorter price, just with the presence of Louis, and Fresco is a worthy starting point in that race. I've got another 3-pack spread, 3 very logical horses in the 7th. Maserati Man, probably the biggest story coming in, or maybe it's close to a 50-50 split in the big storyline between that horse and the 7 Valid Quest, who's down from the Big Apple, first time for Mike Maker for Paradise Farms. I didn't know what to do in the 3rd leg, Acacia, race number 8, and my top selection there is the 9 Midnight Gem. I'm just going to single her with less distance today as she turns back. I am 2 deep, preferring just the now horses against the more accomplished duo, Bronx Beauty and Pacific Gal. I went with Day by Day and Violent Times, and wrapping things up with a 3-horse spread. Obviously, you got to include the 2 Cookie Cove, but I'm hoping the 5 Espirita de Luna likes the turf today on a needed drop in for the low level 12-5, and I'm thinking the 9 Platinum Sense might run well, being a Golden Sense Tail the Cat filly in the mix, and the dam herself did win 3 times on the turf, which encourages me.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I was also intrigued by that horse, and I feel like that Cookie Cove is kind of a must-use, but beyond that, feels like a good fool-around race for the nightcap.
Definitely. Fresco, however, any way you slice this field, this daughter of Freud, New York bred to boot, she's got to be the pivot off point. Her debut was really solid, and why don't we go back? Doesn't seem all that long ago we were gearing up for the 4th running of the Pegasus, and she ran Pegasus Week here on January 26th. Here she comes with that 4-wide sustained advance, essentially, from the 3/8 pole to the finish line. Just a very good effort first time out. She's got the top connections and does look very solid on paper.
Yeah, she certainly does, and I thought that this was a very educational debut for her, and given the fact she is a New York bred, she's the full sister to Therapist, who the connections also had, and did very, very well, and overachieving New York bred, certainly being a multiple stakes winner in grade 3 placed, and you would imagine maybe thinking New York might have been the next stop for her, but she comes back into the races here, and It looks like a good spot, though. It's not exactly an easy spot for sure. This race did come up pretty salty, but I thought the field she faced in her debut at the time was certainly a really, really strong maiden turf race.
Of the 2 turf starters to date, the 2 most important on paper, clearly you have Fresco, who's going to be favored here, unless one of these Todd horses, the 11th Thankful or somebody so darn hot, just really gets bet, which I got to think Fresco's favored just about no matter what.
Sure.
You've got, though, in mentioning just the turf experience in the past, I think you've got the second most interesting horse underneath Fresco going 10-1 here. I'm really curious to see what we get out of the one Long Pants Required, who I still can't believe in a way was that short in her March 29th 3-year-old debut off 2-year-old form that was okay but pretty average. Does she take a step forward here?
Yeah, you said just what I was thinking about how much money she took last time out, and it might have been a Louis Saez factor. I'm not quite sure, but Key Biscayne came out of that race to win next time out, though, on the dirt. But what I like most, I think, about her today is, yes, she's second off the bench, but she does get the blinkers on, and I think that that's going to help because as a 2-year-old, and then even last time, she just hasn't been great out of the gate with the exception of her debut. So I'm hoping maybe we see a little bit more speed today, has a little bit more seasoning. I thought that she might be a bit interesting. And then I, like you, of the 2 Todds, did think Thankful looked to be perhaps a little bit more of the well-meant one. A nice workout on the Palmettos turf course, though must be nice to be Todd Pletcher with just a pair of American Pharaoh fillies.
Definitely. Nuda, the other one for Al Shakab, and that one does have Angel Rodriguez riding, clearly a guy not really synonymous, and good luck to him. And it's nice that Todd's giving a shot to a rider he doesn't use, in fact, hasn't used before, and we'll see what Nuda does in her turf debut out of a dam who won a couple of turf races. I know we got to get going, but your thoughts on the 4 So Darn Hot, who in a way, maybe she's got the flashiest pedigree, even with the AP fillies in the mix, being the younger half-sister to Come Dancing. She ran okay on the dirt first out. I think in hindsight, though, going a mile right out of the box, obviously that's a pretty big hurdle.
It's not an easy task at all, but I am curious, given that she ran okay, and it seemed like a race that she could build off, and given Come Dancing's just sensational one-turn dirt form, it is curious to see how she'll handle the turf today for sure. I am thinking, though, she does have a very strong pedigree with Come Dancing in the family. She obviously cost a lot at OBS June, too, to go for $600,000 as a Go Sapper filly. I thought that was pretty intriguing, and I'm curious what we're going to get second out.
3 turf-winning siblings. Come Dancing's been the star, but there have been 3 turf-winning sibs of that one. We'll see. Good 6th race. 7th race, basically a 3-year-old dirt sprint here, optional claiming race on the dirt. That probably boils down to the matchup between Maserati Man, and we'll look at his last start, the number 6 Beyond Gone, who's been on a good run for Ken McPeak, and the new face in from the Big Apple, the 7 Valid Quest. Here's the 2 grays in Maserati Man and Silverly Enough in a race that came up on Buyer anyway. Came up pretty fast last time out. Is this a fluky effort, or was this a legit solid run from a horse who was chasing 4 wide and is able to sustain it? He only loses a tough one by a neck or so to a horse that had done some okay running for Bob Hess Jr. Good race with the 2 grays as they whip off the quarter pole.
Yeah, it is, and I think that you're absolutely right, given the fact that he was able to sustain that wide run like that, probably, and then dueling down to the wire, probably another explanation as to why the figure was so high, because his race 2 starts back was good, too. It wasn't a disappointing performance. It was just such a big jump last time out. If he runs like that or runs a figure like that again, presumably he should be very, very tough in here. But I thought that he did have some others who were perhaps a little bit more seasoned. Beyond Gone, I think that they've kind of just found where he belongs, and that's sprinting on the dirt. And I think a level like this is the great next step for him. And I, like you, respect Valid Quest coming in.
Just first-time maker. Don't know when he got here. Was breezing as recent as, a month and a half ago, give or take, 5-6 weeks ago, up on the Belmont training track, but it's still first-time maker for a very shrewd outfit in Paradise Farms Corporation. Here's the 8 3-year-old fillies. We sprint on the dirt to get a pretty dirt-heavy Thursday here with six races over the main track altogether on a cloudy day here at Gulfstream. 3-year-old fillies, again, 12-5 to 10-5 claimers, and you and I taking the 9-4, 4-9 exacta box. As I was saying with my late pick 5, I had a tough time with this race, but in the end, I just like Jose D'Angelo second off the claim, and a shorter race this afternoon for her on the dirt than Midnight Gem.
Her sprint race 2 starts back was actually very good, and I know that she was beaten by some others in here, but I agree. I mean, this barn has been on a great run recently, so I think that's something important to watch. And I think both of our top picks, I think, are a little bit of a price in here, and we'll see how things do play out. But I thought Chit Chat Girl picking up a Misael Jaramillo coming out of a key race, just thought that there was a lot of opportunity for improvement for this one, who her race at Gulfstream at this level, 2 starts back behind Miss Chaplin, I thought was solid. And again, just given the fact that a couple of horses came back to win last time out.
We are up in class now as we move on to the late double in our last trip on the main track today. Older fillies and mares in this high-priced allowance optional claimer. And I find it pretty fascinating, the different camps that are involved here, where, again, you've clearly got 2 very accomplished and black-type filled resumes for horses like the 1 Bronx Beauty and the number 5 Pacific Gal, but there might be a little bit of a sense of urgency in those respective camps, especially with Pacific Gal off the non-race last time out. I don't have the same, concerns per se with a horse like the 2 Day by Day, and I wanted to go back, although she ran here in the middle of last month. I thought this was a really nice effort from a horse who was just, tactically speaking, and maybe just as far as the distance, was up against 2 major hurdles, running against a future Florida-bred stakes winner, I think, in Miss Aramet, who's just turned into an absolute tiger. And what do you think about this distance, Acacia? Do you think maybe a touch short for Day by Day here at 5 on the dirt?
That's fair. She did get in off the MTO list, and I know you're a super fan of Miss Aramet. She has been very, very good recently. My question with Day by Day is that I think you can be forgiving of this last race, given the company she was keeping, given the fact she didn't have perhaps her preferred distance. It's her races 2 and 3 back that make it a little bit tough for me, just to be honest, given how short a price she was and how she was beaten by some nice horses, certainly. Don't get me wrong, for sure. But given some of the company that she's facing, and I hear what you're saying about the 2 kind of older mares who are more accomplished in Bronx Beauty and Pacific Gale, and that they haven't won in a while, but they've been facing almost exclusively graded stakes company recently. So I gave a slight nod to Pacific Gale because she was one I had liked last time. It was a big layoff, and I didn't think she should have been as short a price as she was, as I'm a John Kimmel fan, but the numbers off the layoff are not as strong. So I'm thinking second off the bench is going to be a significant improvement. If she doesn't improve today, that's where you'd kind of have to jump off the bandwagon.
And she's coming out of the same race. I know we got to get to Pete, but we've got the replay queued, so let's check it out here with 24 on the clock. The number 4 Violent Times and Pacific Gal coming out of the same race. Now, Pacific Gal, the 9 in this race, she's in the black silks. At this point, she's basically all in after prompting the pace 3 wide. Completely different story, however, with Violent Times, who I would have to think maybe ran the best race she's ever run. Do you trust her, though, coming back? Because I feel as though the effort she put forth in this race we're looking at was so far better than any of her dirt races in the past. I wasn't ultimately sure how to proceed with her. Was this a bit of a fluky effort? Because we know she's got quality. She just had never run as well as she did in this race on the dirt.
Yeah, and I will say, just off of a physical perspective, she probably looked the best I've ever seen her last time, too. So maybe Ralph Nix just kind of has her perfectly figured out now, and I'm going to be curious to see as well. But I mean, look, she too has faced some great company. That race behind Girls Know Best 2 starts back was a monster field on the Captiva Island. So this is I think a really nice kind of playing field for all of these horses to figure out where they stand.
And then we've got Cookie Cove coming up in the nightcap. I mean, her form, although she is winless in 6 starts on the turf and she has lost in as the favorite in the past, her form is just a little bit better looking than the field combined. She does pick up a Rod Ortiz Jr., easily the filly to beat in this race.
She is, and I took the chalky approach in the nightcap, but I'm hoping using it with a price and 6-string Kiss, who turns back in distance and does get a pretty big drop in class in here. Maybe she might be one picking up Miguel Vasquez to make a little bit of noise in here.
Second back, speaking of noise, second back off a November layoff for my top selection for the Cassie Barn. Second dam, in fact, the dam was unraced. Second dam was 2 for 3 on the turf. Two siblings of this daughter of Tapiture have tried the turf with one winner. Maybe she'll wake up as she drops into the easiest spot of her career thus far, but they've all got to get around the number 2 Cookie Cove as we take a little time out. Great job on the show today, Acacia.
Same
We'll
to
turn
you.
it over to the one and only Pete Aiello coming up next with those scratches and changes.